Hey everyone, welcome back to On The Mend. This is a podcast where we look back at life's toughest moments to figure out how to move forward. Today's guest is someone who had it all. It's weird doing an intro in front of you.
So
you have to forgive me. You have to forgive me. Suddenly very insecure. I was like, oh God, I've got to do an intro in front of you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Right, today's guest is someone who's had it all. The money, the job. He was hooked on success, on winning. We'll be discussing Gary's addiction to success, status and power, and what happens when you walk away from everything the world says should make you happy. Right, Gary, welcome to On The Mend.
Thank you for having me.
Mate, it's very good to meet you, mate. Like I said, I've been very much absorbed in your content for a few weeks now. And it's a fucking powerful message that you have, mate. More conversations like this coming up in season 3. Watch wherever you get your podcasts.
Thank you. Yeah, I work hard at it. Yeah, it's a lot of work, but I do my best.
Looking at it, right? So, like, I kind of think, like, I'm a recovering drug addict, right? So I think of I seem to look at everything and see addiction, you know. And when I look at you, right, you're making millions of what you call a broken system, right? When did that start to feel like a problem to you?
So I was a trader, full-time trader from 2008 till 2014. So I started super young.
I was How old were you then, 2008?
2008, I was 21.
Right.
And I was interning in 2006, 2007. And before that, I was at LSE, London School of Economics, which is like a dead fancy university.
Right. So I'm new to this. Right. So can you explain exactly what a trader is?
All right. So I'll talk about professional traders because there's a lot of people doing sort of trading at home now, which I think is very dangerous and potentially addictive. Right. But a trader is, all right. So most simply, right, you want to get your foreign exchange money. You know, you go in to Spain, you've got to buy euros. You go to Thomas Cook and they're going to give you your euros, right? Well, if Thomas Cook want euros, they come to me. Or if like Sony want euros, or if Panasonic want euros, or if a massive hedge fund wants euros, we are the guys that go out and get it. We take the risk on it. So we buy things because we think people are going to want them. We are the guys who really anything on like a massive scale, buying currencies, getting a loan. Like you want a loan, you're going to go to your bank, right? But what if your bank wants a loan? Your bank wants a loan, comes to me.
Wow.
This kind. So for me specifically, what I was trading was actually loans.
Right.
So I'd be borrowing and lending money. So obviously, you want to borrow lend money, you're going to go to your bank. But if your bank wants to borrow lend money, or a massive corporation like fucking Nike wants to borrow lend money, they're going to come to me. Back then, so LSE is this crazy finance university full of like kids of foreign billionaires. Everybody wanted to be a trader. And I was like, I'm going to get this job. I'm going to be a trader because I'm the best. That was like the kind of kid that I was. Got my internship. Got the full-time job, started 2008. I started in June 2008.
Yeah.
Lehman crashes in October 2008. So credit crisis. So you watch this, like everything's blowing up. Everybody's making a ton of money. The crazy thing about that crisis is everybody thinks about that like our bankers did badly. The specific team I was on started to make a fortune in the credit crisis. Like there were people making like for the bank $2, $3, $4 million in a day. Like, and they used to make that much in a year, basically. These guys are blowing up. And it was funny for me because, so I come from a very poor background and like these amounts of money were like crazy to me.
Yeah.
And, but I didn't know how much the traders themselves were getting paid, right? So like I knew they would make for the bank $2, $3 million. But in my mind, I was thinking what I really wanted, my big ambition was to get paid 100 grand in a year. And for me, like back then, 2009, that was like crazy money in my head, basically. And I remember the boss who hired me, he took me out, he quit after about 9 months. And I was really like worried because he was kind of my big sponsor. And he took me out and he said, listen, I'm sorry for quitting. I'll make sure you're taken care of. And you can ask me any one question you want. And I said to him, what do I need to do to get paid 100 grand? Yeah. And he said to me, to get paid 100 grand, first thing he said was, you can't do it. Like you're first year trader, you're 22 years old, you can't get paid 100 grand. I said, you tell me what I need to do and I'll do it.
Yeah.
He said, to get paid 100 grand, you need to make $10 million for the bank. And immediately I was like, head down, what am I going to do? How do I make $10 million? Like make your plan to make your $10 million. And I made that $10 million. And at the end of that year, I got paid £395,000.
Fucking hell, mate.
Yeah. That was the end of 2009. So I just turned 23.
Right.
And I think looking back, before that, you could probably say my competitiveness was kind of the healthy enthusiasm of youth, I guess.
Yeah.
But at that moment, when I got paid nearly 400 grand, I just turned 23. I think that's when I started to get a bit fucked up, basically. And I write about it and I remember, it's funny, when you write a book about like stuff that happened 20 years ago, you're writing it from memory and you're trying to like go back into the memory and remember what happened as best you can. But this bit me receiving that bonus, as maybe you can imagine.
Yeah.
I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember going into the meeting room. I remember sitting there with my boss. My boss at the time was like a fucking giant. He was like 6'6". He must have weighed like 250 pounds. Massive guy. I remember the paper on the table. And I remember looking at the paper. And I was expecting, in the end, I made $12 million for the bank. Right. So I was thinking like, well, that's going to have to be 120 grand. And I was looking for like 120 grand. And there was no number there was 120 grand. I remember pointing to it and being like, is it that number? Which was 395. And then my boss was just laughing. He's like, yeah, it's that number. And I remember like it was yesterday, exactly what I said. I said, wow, that's a lot of money. I remember exactly saying that. And then the next thing I remember, I was back on the desk. So I don't know how much you know about trading floors, right?
I know nothing about
massive, enormous room.
Right.
In a skyscraper. We were only on the second floor, but you know.
So how many people are in that room?
I want to say 1,000, but you know, it's like so. It's probably something like 700, 800, like 6. Right. I'm guessing.
Right. Wow.
Maybe it's a bit less.
And they're all traders like you, just doing this.
No, so there's different roles. Maybe there's 300 traders, or It's hard for me to. I'd have to do the maths on it. But there's a lot of traders. Right. Sales guys, research guys. You know, secretaries, bosses. Yeah. Massive room, and everybody's sitting in these long rows back to back with these massive walls of like 9, 10 screens in front of them. Oh and it's like a lot of big guys, a lot of sort of guys from rich backgrounds. I was like one of the smallest guys there, lined up back to back. And I remember, and it's very machismo, lots of, you know, very testosterone, very competitive. And I remember going back to the desk, and that was the best first year trader had ever had. And I sat down on the desk, and I think that's what I was told. Yeah.
Fucking hell, man.
I was told no one had ever made $12 million in their first year before. But I mean, I don't think
that's coming from that competitive kid.
Yeah,
that must have been
but
like, mate.
Well, this is the thing.
Yeah.
I thought I would be happy, but I sat down on my desk and I felt like I was going to start crying. It was really weird. And I didn't really understand why. And I was quite lucky. I worked with, there was one other guy on my team who was also from a working class background. In the book, he's called Billy. And he was a scout, so I didn't go to university. He was in his like mid-40s already by then. Kind of like a wise guy. And he saw that I was like not doing well, and he sort of come around so the other guys couldn't see me. And he was like, go take a moment, sit outside on the grass. And you've been to Canary Wharf.
Yeah. So
like the main square, there's these 3 big skyscrapers. And on the other side, there's like a smaller building. And there's like a kind of square of grass. And I remember I went outside to sit down on this square of grass. And it was January, and I'd forgotten to bring my coat or anything, so I was just sitting there in my shirt, fucking freezing.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand why. I was overwhelmed. I think looking back now, I can see I was obviously in shock. And the first thing I thought about was of my dad. And so my dad worked for Royal Mail for 35 years. And I grew up in Ilford, which is in East London / Essex. And he worked in Central, and he used to wake up super early and take the train that went past the back of the house, and my house backed onto the railway.
Right.
In from Essex. And my mum used to wake us up like really early in the morning to try and see him on the train and wave at him going past. Yeah. And my memories of him as a kid were, I didn't see him in the morning except if I caught him on the train. And then in the evening he'd come back like late and tired. And you know, I grew up in an area which was a lot of immigrants, a lot of Pakistani immigrants. A lot of people who just recently come over. My friends when I was kids was like Pakistani kids, recent migrants. And a lot of them were poor. You'd go to their houses and, you know, I remember one friend, his dad used to sleep on a sofa, this kind of stuff. You think of all of this poverty you grew up with and all this poverty you witnessed and how hard your dad worked and how hard your mum worked and then for 20 grand a year, you know what I mean? And then you're sitting there, just turned 23 and you got paid.
Almost 400 grand.
Yeah. And I think, if I'd gotten 100 or 120 grand that I was expecting, I probably would have gone home like Billy Big Bollocks, taking my mates out to the pub. But 400 grand, it felt like a crime.
Yeah.
It felt like the crime. And I remember I was dating a girl who lived in Kilburn in northwest London at the time. And I remember calling her saying, can I come to yours tonight? And I went to hers. And she'd told me before, because I'd been like telling her I'm going to make this big bonus. She told me before, you don't have to tell me what it is. And I remember going there and I just not saying anything. And I remember being kind of like terrified. If I say something, it's going to change everything in this relationship. And if I tell my parents, it's going to change everything in that relationship. Yeah. And I remember I went round to some of my mates' house to play Pro Evo. Did you used to play Pro Evo? You're not a football guy.
I'm not a football guy.
It's like FIFA, you know?
Right,
It's
okay.
a football computer game. And I remember a few of my mates got jobs in finance. And I remember they were talking about the bonuses. Oh, what did you get? What did you get? One guy had got like $3,000. One guy had got like $5,000. And they were like, what did you get? What did you get? These are like my mates from when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, just fuck it, I'm just going to tell them. So I told them I got £395,000.
Yeah.
And you could just kind of feel like the oxygen leave the room.
It changes things. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it was that. And I think that moment, but then obviously, after this moment of, I guess, guilt, the next thing you think is, well, if I got $395,000, what did the rest of these dickheads get? Because I was working with really, really like posh people.
Right.
And, you know, if I'm 23 years old getting paid $400,000, what the fuck are these guys making? And then you start thinking, well, why the fuck should they make it if not me? And then you start realizing if I have a good few years, I can make millions and I can retire. And then that kind of money, I think that's when I started to go mad, and I put it in the book. Basically, I think something changed at that moment. I think
and that's a year in, right? So
that's a year and a half
2008
after,
to 2009.
Yeah, end of 2009.
And you're already like, there's already that thing.
From then, it was an obsession. It was an obsession, and it was also an obsession that I couldn't really speak to my friends and my family about.
Yeah.
And then it's a thing that only exists in the office in a way. And I was just obsessed. I wanted to be the best. I wanted to be the best trader in the world. It was, and it was, I wouldn't say it was all I thought about, but I was thinking about it all the time.
Yeah.
100%.
I mean, I can relate a bit, you know, because like for me, growing up with no money and kind of no one ever around me ever having any money.
Yeah.
You know, like when the band got big.
You were very young, right?
I was 19, 20, you know, and suddenly I had more money than my family had ever made in their entire life. You know, and there was something about it which I felt ashamed of, you know, which was a really weird feeling. I've never heard someone else talk about it, you know, because suddenly I felt completely unrelatable to the people that loved me and that I loved. You know, like I felt like I had something, I don't know, like something like a barrier. Do you know what I mean? Because like I didn't want to talk about it, you know, and I couldn't relate to them about it. And so suddenly my life was completely unrelatable to theirs, and I felt guilty in some way. Do you know what I mean?
I didn't want it to change the way people saw me.
Yeah.
But I knew
that it would. Yeah.
And then you're suddenly in this position where it's like, if I tell him, it's going to change everything.
Yeah.
But then the only other option is you hide it, forever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how realistic is that?
Absolutely.
And it just puts this like suddenly like this wall between you and everything you know. But then also, I was a very, very, very competitive kid, right? So obviously, as you might imagine, I fell into a very, very competitive friendship group. You know what I mean?
Right.
So in my home life as well, you know, I passed my 11 plus, I went to grammar school, but then I got expelled from grammar school. Even when I got expelled from grammar school, I went to comprehensive school. You know, that I was that, to be honest, I think a lot of young people are like this, especially young men, you know, just really competitive. I want to do it, you know, I'm going to do the work, I'm going to do the hours, I'm going to do the work, I'm going to be the guy, I'm going to make the money. And you attract friends that have a similar mentality, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then especially when I was in the grammar school, I was kind of the poor kid in the school. And suddenly really, really changed my dynamic with these sort of more middle class friends. When suddenly I wasn't the poor kid who's going to make it. I was the guy who's making fucking 10 times what we make in a year. Yeah, but the way I dealt with it was I lent so heavily into the work. I was like, this is the beginning. Like I wanted to be the best trader in the world. Like that's and that became a kind of an obsession. And that's, you know, we talk about addiction. Like I've never really done drugs. I started smoking weed when I was 15, got expelled from school. And then I was like, I swore off the drugs because I knew. So when I was a kid, I was so good at maths, and I was in like the maths team when I was in year 8. So how old are you in year 8? 12, 13.
Yeah, 12. Yeah.
And I was killing it. We won like this national trophy because I was just like killing like this mass competition.
Yeah. My current health routine, I take heights. I take vitals for brain energy, sleep. I take biotic for all kind of gut health and immune system. And I take hydrate, which is Heights' new electrolyte drink. That's kind of it.
What flavour is the electrolyte drink that you take?
I drink the peach one. It's nice. There's a mango one, which is also very nice, but I like the peach one. To be honest, I heard about Vitals first, but then when I got Vitals, I also ordered their probiotic because I always wanted to take a probiotic and I'd never really bothered with it before or been consistent with it. I mean, it's a bit gross, but like it helps everything to do with your gut, right? So like your gut is your second brain. It does so much for your body. I honestly think everyone would benefit from this. Your brain health will improve. You'll kind of feel a bit clearer and your gut health will improve. And also I think I suffer with getting enough electrolytes. So to know when I'm drinking water, I'm getting electrolytes in, that's a big for me. To get everything, just head to heights.com/OTM and use the code OTM20 to get 20% off your first subscription.
Then I was in it again in year 11 when, which is after I started smoking. And I could see that it was like slowing me down, basically.
Right.
And for me, from like a poor background, being quick was the only thing I had, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like mentally. So I didn't want to do it. And when I got expelled, I kind of used that opportunity to stop. And I never ever went back on it. So I've never really had an addictive personality in that sense.
Yeah.
But once I had this taste of like being the best, and it's this kind of, the book's called The Trading Game, right? And I think once I can get into this kind of like game-like space when I'm playing a game, I'll be obsessed. Like I have to be really careful about computer games because if somebody gives me a really good computer game, I'll wake up and it's fucking 6 months later.
Yeah.
Like I'll just be like, I'll be in it. And that's what I used to be like when I was doing maths at university. And that's what I was like when I was in the game. And it's a funny one because I think when I look at it, that it was obviously addiction.
Yeah.
But I think this is like a really kind of, it's like a socially acceptable addiction to be addicted to success, to be addicted to money, to be addicted to
it's glorified in a way as well.
Yeah.
It's like you're killing it,
Yeah.
But it's not a healthy mindset.
Yeah, and what you see in the book, both with me, so there's another guy I worked with in the book, is called JB. And I know now that when we were working together, he developed like a really, really serious cocaine addiction. And when we were working together, I was super young. So we were like a kind of a team when I was 24. In 2011, which is when I become like Citibank's top trader. He had a lot of problems in his personal life and in his marriage. And I thought he was an alcoholic, but it turns out he was like a massive, massive, massive cocaine addict.
Yeah.
And you could see he was like losing weight. And you could kind of see he was a little bit like losing his mind, basically.
Yeah.
And I really liked this guy. He was like one of my sort of big sponsors when I first started in the bank. And at one point I went and asked like one of the other traders on the team, like, do you think we should do something about JB? And he said to me, I put this in the book, he said to me, don't worry about JB. JB is the richest man I personally know. And I think that is like such an interesting reaction.
That's such an interesting
And I think,
reaction.
I guess maybe I definitely experienced something similar.
Yeah.
And maybe you probably experienced something similar. Which is, I guess as a pop star, people sort of have this understanding of pop star, like having a breakdown or whatever, having a drug addiction.
Yeah.
But because you're successful, no matter how obvious your breakdown is,
absolutely,
people, and even I myself, struggled to see it as a breakdown.
Yeah.
Because people were just like, so I bought a house, bought a flat, which I still live in today, ripped all the furniture out, and I didn't furnish it. And I lived in this flat, like bare concrete walls, bare concrete floor, bare plaster walls, with just a mattress and a TV for like 3-4 months.
Wow.
And all I was doing was just going to work and making like a fuck ton of money and like being the best trader in the world.
Yeah.
And nobody saw, and I was losing weight. I was down to about 8 stone. Nobody saw that as a breakdown.
Yeah.
Everybody thought Gary is killing it.
Yeah.
And I think this is something so interesting about how we view mental health and addiction for people that are successful, and how we struggle to see addiction to success and addiction to money as damaging forms of addiction.
Absolutely. And also there's just no empathy for it. It's just like, well, what have you got to whinge about?
But even I thought that myself. I felt that for myself. So, I moved to Japan. Like I had my sort of, and I think in hindsight, it's very fair to say at the very least I had a burnout.
Yeah.
Probably I had a mental breakdown, basically.
Yeah.
And
this was in Japan, right?
Well, eventually I moved to Japan. So I lived 2012
so
to 2014.
why did you move to Japan?
So
you're killing it at Citibank, right?
Yeah.
You're number one trader
in
2011.
Yeah.
Right? And so then you moved to Japan. What happened there?
So 2011 was like kind of a mad year, right? Because everybody thought that there was going to be this big economic recovery. So my job was kind of, I'm simplifying a bit, but was basically to bet on, is the economy going to be strong or is the economy going to be weak? Roaring 20s. During 2008, the newspapers were the same. We're going to have a massive bounce back, 2009, 2010. And every single year I worked there, 2008, I saw them predict recovery didn't happen in 2009. 2009, again, same thing. 2010, again, same thing. So by 2011, I'd seen like 3 successive years of next year things will be good and things not being good. And I became obsessed, like this was going to be my edge. I'm going to be the guy that works out why the economy is actually weak. And I came to this conclusion that basically we have this structural crisis of growing wealth inequality. The middle class, the working class are getting squeezed out. The rich are accumulating it. And I realized straight away that's going to get worse forever. And that was how I made my big money, basically. I realized in 2011 that the economy, at least for ordinary people, would get worse forever. And I think, that's probably worth like sitting with for a bit. But you got to recognize that was my job.
Yeah.
My job was to do these things. So, and when I realized that, I was a trader. So I was like, this is it. I've got it. I'm going to make this. This is going to be my big trade. This is going to be my big break. I'm going to make the money. And I bet on the economy will stay weak forever. And everyone else was betting on the economy is going to be strong. And just after I put that bet on, the first thing that happened was, do you remember in 2011, there was a massive earthquake in Japan and a tsunami, and it killed like 20,000 people. And there was people thought it was going to be a nuclear disaster in an area called Fukushima.
Right.
Yeah, do you remember this?
There
was a massive and tens of thousands of people died in Japan. And suddenly everybody was like, oh, the economy is going to be shit. And I made the fucking ton of money.
Let's just go back to that. So you made a ton of money because of this?
Yeah, because of this earthquake, which killed thousands of people. And I remember sitting there. And
everyone, because you made that money, right? So in your world of trading, everyone's like, mate, fucking well done.
Not everyone around me lost money as well. And I made money. Exactly. And everybody's like, this is the thing that is so interesting. Everybody kind of responds like, oh, Gary's the man. And the maddest thing is like, obviously, I didn't know there was going to be an earthquake, right? It's ridiculous. Yeah. Everybody suddenly thinks that you're the man because you made a load of money on an earthquake, which you didn't predict, basically. And I made it. And then I think this is the first kind of weird, a little part of you thinks like, and I remember there was an earthquake just before in New Zealand. And I remember Citibank economists sent an email out saying, we think this earthquake is going to be really good for GDP growth. And you kind of, you get these little kind
Fucking hell, mate, what an email.
You get these little nicks where you just kind of, these things happen that should be tragedies and you're making money off them and you're sort of analysing them. And but then you sit there and I made a ton of money off the earthquake. And then I was like, I actually flipped my position because I thought the earthquake was like overblown. I made money on the way back. Then I bet again on economic disaster. And then we had this 2011 sovereign debt crisis where the Greek government basically collapsed and all of these like European nations had to like slash their spending and do austerity. And I was making a ton of money and everyone around me was losing money. And it was this really crazy experience because I was making money again and again and again on these fucking terrible things happening.
Which is your job and what you're supposed to be doing.
Job. Yeah. And I would like to make it clear, I didn't cause any of these terrible things to happen. And but suddenly you become like the guy on the trading floor. And like everyone else around me was losing money. I was the only guy making money. Everybody around me was blowing up. But by this time I was living with a friend of mine from high school who's like, his mum had passed away and he didn't have no one to live with. So I'd got my mate from high school, from the street I grew up in actually. I got him a job working in the city and he was starting to get involved in drugs and all this kind of stuff, getting dragged into all this like ridiculous behavior. And I was in this weird situation where I was killing it. Everyone around me was like blowing up, losing money, having disasters. But in banking at the time, you don't get paid till the end of the year. And there's no guarantee they pay you at all because it's this bonus system, right?
Right.
So everyone around me was blowing up. My boss got fired. I got a new boss in I absolutely hated. And I was in this situation where I was going to make £2 million if I didn't piss anyone off.
Yeah.
And I had to just play it like absolutely like I became like, you have to be like the model guy. And I hated my boss. He was a dick and I absolutely hated him. And you just couldn't put a foot wrong. Yeah. You couldn't put a foot wrong and everyone was blowing up with you. And then you finally get to the end of the year, you make your $2 million. And I remember I walked into the office the next day and I was just so like numb. I didn't give a shit about anything. I just didn't give a shit. I don't even remember really getting the $2 million. Everything had become like a game. Everything had become like you kind of mastered this space, but everything is a tactical move. Everything is a game, and it was killing me.
You've been holding on for your bonus, right? So you're playing a game with the boss.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I remember, like, so my boss had a meeting with me, and I hated this guy. And the book is called The Frog, and he said, "Oh, we don't think we're going to be able to pay you because the bank's had a bad year and the team's had a bad year." And my immediate reaction was, I'm like, on the phone to headhunters, get me an interview at Goldman, get me an interview at Morgan Stanley, get me an interview at Barclays. And I would go to all these interviews in a fucking hoodie. And all I would do is ask the managing director, give me your business card. Give me 2 business cards, and I would keep one and I would leave one on my boss's desk. Every week, here's the Goldman Sachs business card, MD. Here's the Barclays business card, MD. Are you going to pay me or am I going to leave, basically? And even that was a game. Everything was like a game. Everything was like a strategy. And it was really inhuman. It was a really inhuman way to live, basically. And all the time, you're making your money on the fact that the global economy is going to collapse.
People are suffering. Yeah. Which obviously didn't sit well with you, And when I look at it, I'm like, this sounds like addiction. It's like you're constantly searching for that win, right? To get to that win, but then when you get it,
there was no joy. This is the thing. There was no. When I got that first bonus, I remember it, and my second bonus, I remember as well. But that third bonus, which was like $2 million, I don't even remember it. I'm trying to think now, and I cannot remember it. I cannot remember it. I cannot remember the meeting. And I know that I'd calculated like to the dollar exactly what I thought I'd deserved. And I went into that meeting, I looked at the paper, and I compared it to my number, and it was the same. And I was like, all right, done, that's it. I remember that I did that, because I remember that was my strategy, but I cannot remember to this day the meeting where I made that $2 million bonus.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. And you think most people would think that's the greatest moment of their life, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, that's just another thing that just you're numb to, And what like, when I think about it, right, because I want to get into Japan and what happened there, because I find that so interesting.
Yeah.
But like, I'm like, what is it about this search for something, right?
Yeah.
Like, because I think of it the same. Like, I mean, for me, it was substances, right? And I've never met a trader before. I've met a couple now, but the first time I ever met anybody, I was in like when I was first in the depths of addiction, right?
Yeah.
I didn't really know I was in the depths of addiction. My record company and my management had a word, and they sent me to the Priory. Right, so they were like, Matt's a fucking nuisance. Let's send him to the Priory, clean him up a bit, and get him back to work. Right, so I got sent to the Priory, and I was sat there, and 3 of the people in my group were traders.
Okay,
and
cocaine addicts,
cocaine, all cocaine, and they talked about this world that was completely alien to anything I'd known about. And it was rife with drugs. And they were like, I don't know how I'm going to do my job. Right? They were like, I need to stop this because my world is falling apart, but also I'm winning. And I'm doing and I'm up for 4 days.
That is the line. I'm winning. So I don't know if you've been like following the kind of media furore about me in the last since I've sort of blown up or whatever. But a bunch of my ex-colleagues who are pissed about the book, they basically got together and they went to the Financial Times. And what they said to the Financial Times, I think is so interesting. What they said to the Financial Times is, Gary was not the best trader. And I think this is like so funny and so interesting, right? Because in a sense, the book is about like portrayal of this world where people, men, they're all men in the book, in that space, are so obsessed with winning and competition that they cannot see anything else. So like, you have this guy, me, he's making money betting on the world collapsing forever. At no point does anyone come up to me and say, do you think it's a problem that the world's going to collapse forever? Nobody says that. What people say is, Gary's winning. Gary is winning. Gary is winning. Do it again. And I think this, for me, like the big thing about the book and about the space, and I think a big thing for young men and maybe for young women in a different way, maybe it's our culture, is this obsession with competition. This obsession with competition, this obsession with winning, this obsession with being the best. I don't know,
I think it's even worse now. Like if you look on social media, there's so many kind of like entrepreneurs who are giving you these kind of like messages, right? You must do this, you must kill it, you must fucking wake up at 4 a.m. and do this shit, it's a constant kind of like thing about win. And that's obviously rife in your world. Right?
Is there a lot of that in show business?
Well, do you know what? It comes down to I mean, I suppose so, because, you know, when I think about the band being big, we were never really celebrating the band being big. We were always worrying about what the fuck was going to happen next.
Okay.
You know, we were like, always that you're only as good as your next hit.
Yeah,
is
yeah,
what we
yeah.
got told. You know, like, so you're doing all right, boys, but, you know, what's the next one?
Yeah,
You know, that
yeah.
was always our mentality. So you spoke openly about Japan, right?
Yeah.
And so what brought you to Japan?
Yeah, so basically after 2011, I went in that first day and I was like, and then in the middle of the year, without any plan, I went in for my mid-year meeting and I told my boss I want to quit.
Right.
And then I was like, oh,
why
actually,
did you say that?
it was not strategized at all.
Right.
I was just fucked. I was like and I was quite lucky. I started dating a really just a nice, sweet, not crazy girl from Norwich. So she wasn't from London. So she wasn't really in this kind of like hustle, compete mentality that we are a little bit more like in London. And she came in straight away as soon as we started dating. And she was like, why don't you quit that job? You fucking hate that job.
Yeah.
She's like, you're getting depressed. It's because you hate your job. And it's like, no one had ever said that to me, basically.
Yeah.
And that year, that was, that 2011, that's when I bought the flat. I didn't furnish the flat. I started to lose weight. I was really obviously depressed. And like, I was lucky I kind of had her there as a kind of good influence, being like, you should quit that job. And I never said I would to her. But I got called into my mid-year meeting and it was totally unplanned. I just said, I'm going to quit. That's it. And then I suddenly backed off and I was like, I want a sabbatical. I want to go traveling. You know, because, the thing is, like, so I got expelled from school when I was 16 and beginning of year 11. And I had to do a year of studying at home, lying on my front room floor, basically. And I think ever since I got expelled from school, I was in this like, I'm going to make it back. I'm going to make it back. I'm going to be the best. I'm going to be the best. Suddenly you were the best. And I think when you suddenly are the best, you're kind of forced to look yourself in the face and be like, well, why am I so fucking unhappy then? You know what I mean? And then it just suddenly it's like, what's the point? It becomes pointless. And I think that's when the depression probably started. At least it started to manifest in the beginning of 2012.
And how did that manifest? In what kind of way?
So for me, and the Japan part of the book is about depression, really. The opening line is like, Tokyo is a wonderful place to be depressed, especially in the autumn. For me, I think a lot of people think that depression is feeling sad.
Yeah.
And, you can speak, I don't know if you've experienced it, but like, for me, depression was more like feeling nothing.
Feeling nothing.
Feeling total numbness. You don't take joy in anything. And like, very often you will struggle, and I struggled with eating, sleeping, taking care of your housework, even things like washing. But the thing is, you don't give a fuck. You might not have showered in 3 days and you do not give a fuck.
Yeah.
You just don't care. People, like I was living in this like room with this flat with no furniture. And my girlfriend ended up like getting a fucking sofa from Free Cycle. And she was like, how can you live like this? And I was like laughing, like, yeah, I guess I can live like this. I didn't give a fuck. For me, it was just about numbness. I really wanted to isolate myself from everything. And I think I said I wanted to travel. And I did want to travel because I come from a poor background. When I was a kid, I never had a chance to travel or anything. We never go on holidays and shit like that. But really, I just wanted to get the fuck away from everything and everyone. And I wanted...
What's the most different place on earth?
Yeah, you wanted to get away. And I wanted to get away, in a sense, from this girlfriend who was really nice and really loved me in a weird way. Because I didn't want to break down in front of her, in a sense. And I didn't want her to be involved. So I was trying to just get away from this job, get away from all my friends who think, oh, Gary's so amazing. Get away from all of this. He's so successful. Get away from this girlfriend who loved me. It's a little bit like, I don't know, have you had a pet cat?
No.
So cats, normally, I grew up with cats. You don't normally see your cat die. Normally, your cat just goes and never comes back. And it's like cats, when they know they're going to die, they just go and they die somewhere like. It was a little bit, obviously I didn't die in Japan, but it was like, you want to get away from all of this shit, this people see you, and just go and just, be away from it all. But obviously, I got this transfer to Japan and I wasn't away from it all because I was still working for Citibank. Right. And I was still working
So you go to Japan and you do the same job but somewhere else?
Yeah, same job for like in Tokyo in Citigroup Japan.
Right.
Yeah, Citibank Japan in Tokyo on a big skyscraper.
Right. And what's that do for your mental health?
It wasn't good.
Yeah.
Because then suddenly you don't speak the language, you don't understand the fucking food.
I think lost in translation, but doing
and nobody speaks. The English level is not good there. When I first moved, I didn't speak any Japanese.
I went there when I was 18 with the band, and I remember getting, like, I was obviously massive caner, and I remember getting lost, right, being pissed, and I couldn't fucking read a street sign. I couldn't remember what hotel I was in, so I had no idea what I was doing.
You can't even do the shopping.
It's like
you go to the shopping and so for those who don't know, they don't use the English alphabet. Absolutely, it's pictures, so you can't read anything.
Yeah.
I was away from my friends. My girlfriend didn't initially come, and I was just like, that's when I really started losing weight. I was getting really, really skinny, and I hated it at first. Hated it, and that's when the depression started to be really clearly a strong depression, and really sort of obviously a depression.
But there's no one around you to point it out, right?
No, and the bank they just want you to keep making money, right? They want you to keep making money, and they
And I suppose you're doing a good job at that, right?
I never in the peak of my depression, I never ever stopped making money. I never stopped making money trading, and that's I think that's because that was my obsession. You know what I mean? Like like when you're at it's the same as drugs for you. Like when you're at your worst, you're not going to stop using your drugs. Like,
absolutely.
For me, that's what I was good at.
What's the only thing that the only thing that wakes you up in the morning?
Yeah, that's like, and I loved it, and I was addicted to it, and I still trade today. I like to think I've got help, but I didn't trade actually for a long time. Right. I stopped for a few years, and then I came back. But yeah,
you're not working for a bank now, though, right?
No, I trade just my own money. Right. Yeah.
I mean, how's that sit with you now? Because so I mean, we're going to get on to what you're about. Like, I mean, there must be such a kind of like,
So I'd say it's a funny one, right? So I made all this money betting on the fucking end of the world and the collapse of the middle class and collapse of living standards for ordinary people, and that was a fucking lot to deal with and think about. And I spent a lot of time, and I had my big depression, and I tried to quit, and the bank didn't let me quit, and it was a fucking shit show. And eventually, I managed to get my sick leave, and I decided, like an idiot, I want to try and quit this job and fucking do something about the fucking collapse of the economy.
Yeah.
Which is a mad thing to decide when you're in the middle of a really bad depression. But actually, it's not that mad, actually, because I think, for me personally, one of the reasons I was depressed was because I was so fucking selfish as a kid. And I think in a big way, I've never done this like 10-step recovery, but I spoke with this guy. Is it 12 steps? I'm not sure.
Steps, yeah.
I spoke with this guy, JB. He actually, who I used to work with, is in the book. He arranged to meet with me as one of his 12 steps is you have to apologise to people, right? And
make amends, He
called me up and he was like, I'm sorry for being a dick. And the truth is, I don't really remember much of it. But I'm pretty sure I was a dick. And I was like, yeah, that's fine, basically. But like, for me, I think one way to get over, one important part of getting over depression with me was starting to care about other people. And this is why Japan was so great for me, because
before you go into that, what's so interesting about that is that the 12th step is carrying the message to the recovering addict.
Okay.
Right? So
helping
actively,
others.
what you're doing is that 12th step, right? You are spreading a message of hope
to
those people, which is, so without knowing it, you're already following a recovery path,
Yeah, helping others.
Service.
So I quit, and I decided, like, I'm going to try and do something, which is mad because you fucking can't do anything. And but I decided I was going to try. But for a long time, I'll be honest, like, I was aware my mental health wasn't great when I came out, and I didn't want to work really hard. I had been working hard for a long time. So I quit 2014, I came back, I had a really bad bike accident, knocked my teeth out. And I did immediately start working on, like, trying to do things on the economy, 2014, 2015, 2016, but in a pretty relaxed way. And in 2017, I went back to uni. I did a 2-year master's at Oxford.
So 2017, you've done all this, right? You got loads of money, and you go back to university.
Yeah, and for me, that was a little bit kicking myself up the arse. Like, you've spent long enough now, like, lying around. I did a lot of traveling and backpacking and shit like that. It's time to and it's weird when you stop working, especially 2014, I was only 27. And it's weird to stop working at 27. You're kind of removed from the world. Right. And in a way, I was living kind of a charmed life because I wasn't working and I had money and I was traveling and stuff. But I was separated from the world, and I was trying to heal my mental health, basically.
Yeah.
But and I was always telling myself, you're trying to do something to fix the economy. But I knew in my heart of hearts I wasn't really working that hard at it.
Yeah.
And going back to uni was kind of kicking myself up the arse. Like, all right, go back to this competitive place, because Oxford is a very competitive place.
Right. And you went to Oxford?
I did a 2-year master at Oxford, 17 to 19. Right. Yeah. And start competing. And I competed. But it was funny, I went there and I didn't really work that hard. But then, and I got my degree and I passed my exams and it wasn't that hard for me. But then 2020 happened. COVID happened. And I knew immediately, this is going to be a fucking disaster for inequality, for living standards. It's going to be, I knew straight away. And
well, you put a video out as well.
I did. I put a video out. But then I did two things, I did two things at the same time, which was I opened my laptop up and I put a fucking massive bet on the gold price. And it was the first time I did serious, sizable trading since I left. And I wrote my first ever article, which got published about a week later in a website called Open Democracy, and eventually wrote the same article for The Guardian. And for me, in a weird way, my return to trading and my start of being serious about this job, which I do now, of trying to fix the economic problems, trying to save living standards for ordinary people, they are the same thing. And I couldn't do one without the other. Because for me, what I am good at is trading. There is nothing in the world that I am better at than trading and understanding the economy. That is what I've worked, because that is what I did as an obsession. That is what for years. And when I do my videos on YouTube, I'm always thinking about, what do I know that other people don't know? And how can I give that understanding to my audience? And I told you before in this interview, the way to make money as a trader is to be right when everyone else is wrong. So it's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's I want to know, what do people think? How is that wrong? If you understand, that was my way of making money as a trader. Understand, and the YouTube is exactly the same thing. It's the same thing. So for me, I like to think as much as I can that now I'm using that skill, because at the end of the day, and I left trading, I didn't trade for years. That is what I'm good at. That is what I'm good at. And I like to think that I'm using it now to try and protect the public, trying to protect the future of the working class. But the truth is, and we were talking about outside before we come in, I'm working too hard again. I know I am. I know I'm working too hard again. Because I started doing the videos 2020, and we had a little bit of success early on. Videos are doing well. And then I got really serious about the videos early 2022. And I started doing weekly videos with my mate Simran from high school. And then somebody called me. And then we got to a state where we had loads of really good videos, but we weren't getting tons of views. And then somebody called me and he was like, I'm a literary agent. Have you thought about writing a book? And I immediately thought, if I can write this story of my life on the trading floor well, I can blow this YouTube up. I knew straight away, if I can get that book really fucking good, I can blow this YouTube up, and then maybe I can really do something. And then that's probably when this sort of obsession started again, which is now what I want to do is I want to write the fucking best book in the world. And for those who don't know, my book is currently the best-selling non-fiction book in the country this year. And I'm a, this is a maths degree. I worked fucking hard to learn how to write a book. And I didn't want to just write like a boring economics book. I wanted this book to be fucking, I want you to pick this book up and open this book and you finished it the next day. And you're like, what the fuck? That's what I wanted to write. I wanted it to be like fucking Goodfellas. I wanted it to be like driving narrative. And that was the obsession again. And it's so funny because in a way, the book is about the dangers of obsession, the dangers of addiction. And there's me, locked myself in my room for 9 months, convinced I'm going to write like #1 bestseller.
Deep in obsession, deep in addiction.
But the thing is, it's a part of what you can speak for yourself. I think, people who get addicted are normally people who have this obsessive nature. And but the fact is, I'm fucking good at this. I'm fucking good at this, and I want to use it for good. And it's always my challenge, and it probably always be my challenge, finding that balance. And now at the moment I'm actively trying to work less, and I'm struggling to work less, to be honest.
I think that's the thing, like that. I think a lot of people can relate to, because it's like, I get asked occasionally, like, do you regret, like, and there's parts of my life, right, where I've done fucking awful things, and I've hopefully made amends for them, and I've apologized. I'm trying to be a better person. But when I think about it, like, pretty much everything that went well in my life is because of the way I am. Do you know what I mean? So would I want to change that? No. I'm living in this place where I'm kind of like, some things I fucking take too far. I don't drink and take drugs anymore, but I act addictively in loads of different fucking ways. But also it drives me, and it kind of like makes me who I am. So no, not necessarily would I want to change that part of me. Do you know what I mean? Do you feel the same?
Oh, definitely. People ask me, what would you change? What do you regret? And I wouldn't change nothing. And I think there were times I didn't treat people the best.
Yeah.
And I think there were times I didn't treat myself the best, to be honest. I think often the person I treat worst is myself, to be honest.
Absolutely.
I think that's like the way, that's the way that I am. But no, I wouldn't. I still live, close to Canary Wharf, and I can see the skyscraper I used to work in.
Really? From where you live?
Yeah, when I first moved back there,
Mate,
I didn't really like
anywhere,
it.
Right, so you choose to...
Well, when I first moved back there, I didn't like it. But then it was a decision I made. I thought the book had to be written there. The book had to be written there in the shadow of the skyscrapers. It had to be written there. I had to see it there. I had to have it there on the horizon every day.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of what I achieved in that place.
In a way, like a North Star. Like, this is fucking what I'm doing. I'm doing this for this reason.
I wanted it to be there because I wanted that connection to you. It's weird when you write like an autobiographical book. You are, in a sense, you're having a dialogue with the you of that time. And I wanted to be there, close to that space, seeing it. I still live there, and I still have it on the horizon. And it's mixed emotions, but I'm not. No, I'm really proud of what it's one. I think the two things, probably the three things I'm most proud of, are what I achieved at Citibank. Yeah, the book, which I think is something I'm really proud of, and I feel really lucky to have done this, been able to do this creative work as well. And walking away and making the decision that I'm not going to keep chasing the money, and I'm going to try and use the skills I've developed to help other people. I think those are the three things. But I'm really proud of what it almost feels like another life. But I worked fucking hard to be the best trader.
Absolutely,
and I was the best trader in 2011.
I mean, do you think in some way you're still do you think you're still healing from what that job did to
100.
you?
And I think I probably always will be to some degree. But it's not, I describe it in the book. I describe it in the book as running towards something and running away.
Right.
You can talk about, recovering from your addiction, but the addiction doesn't come from nowhere. You become addicted for a reason.
Absolutely.
Because you're looking for something. Because you're trying to fill a hole, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're trying
giving you something that you don't have.
Yeah, for me, when I was a kid, I was fucking poor, and it was a difficult, I grew up in a difficult family, in a difficult home, and it was crowded, and we were judged, and like so many young men in this world, I told myself, or to be honest, I'd let myself believe the story that the world tells you, which is if you make enough money, those problems will go away and you'll be happy. And that's, and how many people are telling ourselves that story?
Absolutely.
And that was just...
I mean, that's the narrative, right? I mean, everywhere it seems like it's the American dream, right?
Yeah.
It's like, but we fed into that in it.
And that's, sometimes people get mad at me for the funniest things. People are like, why do you dress like you dress? Why don't you have a nice car? Why don't you have a Rolex? And I think that's such a crazy thing to believe. But what you see there is people have told themselves, if I make enough money, I'll be happy. And to see somebody else make a ton of money and not be happy, it kind of challenges your like fundamental worldview, which is like my whole plan in life is, I'm going to make a ton of money and then I'll be happy. That's because that's what young men are told, right? If you make enough money, you'll be happy. It will all come.
Absolutely. It kind of challenges what some people might think, right? Some people might think, right, okay, you dress the way you dress and you speak the way you speak because you're trying to kind of fill that narrative, right? But actually it's like, no, maybe we've got the fucking narrative wrong. Maybe the people that are judging something have got this narrative wrong.
It's my friends, I speak about my friends, like this is how I've always dressed and how I've always spoken. At what point was I supposed to change?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly,
it's like, and I'm, because like I said, when I made that first bonus, I immediately became obsessed with trading. So I never started spending the money because the money was just like your high score on Sonic the Hedgehog. You know what I mean? Like it's the money was just the result of the thing that you're doing. All I wanted was to be, and it was never, I mean, of course I recognize that the financial freedom I have now, the ability to do the YouTube I have now is because of that money. But I never wanted, it was never like I want the money to get a nice house or I want the money to buy a nice car. It was just the money was just the consequence of what I really wanted was just to be the best trader. It was this abstract desire, basically.
I mean, I feel so similar with things like that because I remember when we first got fucking paid, right? Like, I don't know if I can say this, but like one member of my band is from a very, very wealthy background, right? And he bought a Ferrari.
Okay.
Right? I bought a fucking Huffy BMX.
And
like, that's all I ever wanted was like, it's one BMX.
That's the thing. I bought a £3,000 Vespa. And for me, and I'd just been paid like 400 grand. For me, £3,000 was like...
But also
that was like
terrified it was going to go.
This is the weird when you suddenly make... like I'd never had anything that I could lose before. Suddenly you've got this thing that you could lose.
Remember you telling me... Remember you telling me on YouTube. Like, I remember hearing you talk about like the difference of lifestyle, right? It's like when you're kids and you lose something.
Yeah.
Right? There's something different about someone who's very poor, right? And it fucking resonated with me. And you talked about plimsolls.
Yeah.
And if you lose your plimsolls, you're not getting some more. You know, so you're doing your PE in your school shoes.
And I think that is the big difference between growing up poor and growing up not poor. That I think people who've not grown up poor don't understand is this knowledge that if you lose something, it's not going to be replaced.
Absolutely,
And the fear that instills in you. Like for me, I grew up in a little small terrace house and I shared a small bedroom with my brother and I had like a little drawer that I kept under my bed. And it was like everything I owned was in that drawer.
Yeah.
Like everything you own is in that drawer basically. And and then I got a paper round when I was like 12 and you're making like £13 a week. You're saving up 7-8 to buy a pair of trainers, 7, 8, 9 weeks wages. And then you fucking love those trainers,
Absolutely,
and it's just this, I think this is, and I think it's that insecurity and that fear that and I don't think I will ever fully lose that.
In this podcast, like something that changed my life, which is something that I do every day, and it's a little thing, right? I do a gratitude list, right? Because I can wake up on the wrong side of the bed.
Yeah, that's a great habit. That's a great habit.
Wake up on the wrong side of the bed and I could be a miserable prick. Yeah. And like, so doing these 3 things has made a massive impact on the way I live my life. And I've seen the trajectory of it. So we ask guests to share 3 things that they're grateful for. So when you think about it,
it's funny you say that because I do that every day and I got taught to do that in church. Yeah, I got taught that. I'm not a religious person, but I got taught, my parents are very religious Mormons and that's you get taught to do that when you pray every day.
Really? Wow.
So there's so much. I'm so grateful that I'm able to do the work that I do, that I'm able to work I'm passionate about. I'm grateful for all the experience I've been able, I know for the financial security that I have. Because I know not a lot of people have that. I'm super grateful for that I've been able to travel, that I've got friends that support me. There's so much that I'm grateful for. For the freedom I have. I can take time off. I can go traveling if I want to. Then I've been able to live abroad. This is more than 3 things, but like, it is important because, the things I say sometimes can be quite depressing. And I have known for nearly 15 years now that the economy is going to get worse and worse and worse. You saw my video from 5 years ago saying this terrible shit's going to happen. And that's a hard thing to carry. So I think understanding and being grateful for what you have is so important for mental health. Not that I don't think I'm like I don't think I'm the Dalai Lama on mental health. I've still got a long way to go, but I think it's a great habit.
Absolutely, mate. Gary, thank you so much, mate.
That's all right.
I'm a big fan.
Thank you.
You're going to grab a few more. So thank you so much, mate. Really,
thanks, boss. Thank you.
Thank you, mate. If you enjoyed this conversation with Gary, please follow On The Mend wherever you get your podcasts. It really helps us grow the show and be able to speak to more fascinating people with their own stories. And please get in touch with us on Instagram and share your thoughts on this episode. We love to hear from you. And once again, right, if you or someone you know is struggling, you're not alone, right? There's help out there. We listed some very trusted support services in the show notes. Please take a look.